Good evening. I would call to order the regular session for the Planning and Zoning Commission for February 6, 2024. We do have a quorum present. The first item on the agenda is to consider the minutes of the January 16th, 2024 joint meeting with the Zoning Board of Adjustment. If there are no additions or corrections, may I have a motion, please?
Move to approve.
Motion is by Aram.
Second.
Don't forget to log in. There we go. Second by Jack. Nope, Jack. Rick. Rick. Sorry, I'm sick. That's my.
That's okay.
All right. Vote now. Motion passes 4-0. And the next item, we have two regular hearings. The first regular hearing is the preliminary plat of Standard at Old Town Addition, lots 1 through 4, Block A, on 17.665 acres, out of the A.G. King Survey, abstract number 698, zoned planned development mixed use district, located at and north of 701 East Main Street.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. So this is a preliminary plat of the Standard at Old Town Addition. There were some deficiencies noted on the plat that were provided in the backup, so staff's recommendation tonight is that the Planning and Zoning Commission disapprove the preliminary plat of the Standard at Old Town Addition for the deficiencies listed above and delegate to staff the authority to accept and approve the plat once the listed deficiencies are corrected, bringing the plat to the chair for signature.
Thank you, Michelle. Commissioners, are there any questions for staff on this item? If not, may I have a motion, please?
Motion to disapprove the preliminary plat for the deficiencies listed above and delegate to staff the authority to accept and approve the plat once the listed deficiencies are corrected.
Motion is by Rick.
Second.
Second is by Francis. Vote now. Motion passes 4-0. The second regular hearing is the final plat of Barrand Addition, Lot 1, Block A, on .262 acres, out of the E. Sutton Survey, abstract number 1167, zoned light industrial district, located at 329 East College Street.
Good evening, Commissioners. The final plat of the Barrand Addition was submitted on January 8th and has been reviewed by staff. Staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission disapprove the final plat for the deficiencies listed in the backup and delegate to staff the authority to accept and approve the plat once the deficiencies have been corrected. The approved plat will be brought to the chair for signature.
Thank you. Any questions for staff on this item, Commissioners? No. Okay. May I have a motion, please?
I move to disapprove the final plat due to deficiencies listed and delegate staff the authority to accept and approve the plat once the listed deficiencies are corrected.
Second. Motion is by Aram, second by Francis. Vote now. Motion passes 4-0. We'll have the record reflect too that Jack Tidwell just joined us. Okay, we have a few public hearings this evening. The first one, excuse me 1 second, is consideration of a recommendation for a zone change request from warehouse district to light industrial district on 1.029 acres, being a portion of Riverview Industrial Park, Block A, Lot 11R1. Located on the south side of Stonewall Drive, approximately 200 feet west of Huffines Boulevard, as requested by Paul Bartel, Path Associates, Inc., on behalf of Prologis Exchange Texas 2004 LLV, the property owner.
Good evening, Commissioners. Unfortunately, John Beckham was ill this evening, so I will be presenting for him tonight. The history on this property is that in 2011, it was actually zoned light industrial, and it was rezoned to warehouse in anticipation of a storage development. It has now been reassembled back into the property to the south, which is all zoned light industrial, and Prologis would like to build a warehouse distribution facility, which is allowed by right in the light industrial zoning district. So they're wanting to rezone that portion now of the property back to light industrial. During the review process, we did discover that in 2011, deed restrictions were also placed on the property that do require removal through a public hearing process. So we are scheduling that, and you will see that come forward at a future meeting to remove those deed restrictions. But in general, the light industrial district allows for a broader range of uses, generally lower intensity uses. Staff is in support of this zone change and recommend that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the zone change request to the City Council.
Thank you, Michelle. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff before I open the public hearing? No? Okay. At this time, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing for this item. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come forward, sign your name, and we will be happy to hear from you. Having no one come forward, I will go ahead now and close this public hearing. Commissioners, if there are no questions or additions, may I have a motion, please?
I make a motion to approve the zone change as presented.
Motion is by Francis.
Second.
Second by Rick. Vote now.
Jack, what was your vote on that?
I'm logged on as a non-voting.
What's that?
It logged me on as a non-voting. It didn't allow me to log in as a voting member. You fixed it? Okay.
I don't know if you
Do I still have the opportunity to vote?
What is your vote on?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioners, this item will be considered by the City Council for a second public hearing and a final decision on Monday, February the 19th, 2024 at 7:00 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. The next public hearing is consideration of a recommendation for a zone change from public use district zoning to planned development estate townhouse district on 47.641 acres, legally described as a tract of land out of the R.F. Hardin survey, abstract number 613, the D. Cook survey, abstract number 234, the T.A. West survey, abstract number 1345, and the B. Schoonover survey, abstract number 1209. This is located on the east side of Josie Lane, approximately 3,000 feet south of Windhaven Parkway, as requested by Patricia Fant McAdams on behalf of Lewisville Independent School District property owner.
Good evening, Commissioners. So as you can see, this property is located on the east side of Josie Lane near Indian Creek and roughly across from the elementary school. The property is currently owned by Lewisville Independent School District. They do intend to build a middle school north of the subject property. However, they do not need all of the property, and there's quite a bit of drainage that separates the middle school site from this site that would really be hard to bridge, quite literally. So they are looking to sell this to Life Residential, and they've proposed a planned development zoning district that would have 135 detached single-family lots. The regulations actually allow them to have up to 136, but the current illustration shows 135. Single-family detached lots that are a minimum of 50 foot in width, and would have enhanced architecture standards, and significant amounts of open space. There will be an HOA with the development, and there are facade separation requirements to ensure we don't have repeat facades that are in too close of a proximity. Let me pull up the rough concept plan so you can see here. And apologies, the north is oriented to the left side of the screen. And you can see Josie Lane there. So you can see there would be 2 streets making the connection to Josie Lane that would be culverted over that drainage way that feeds down into Indian Creek. This puts the development quite a ways back from Josie Lane, forming a sort of natural buffer. And they are asking with this PD to do some alternative screening. Instead of doing a masonry wall with a 10-foot buffer right along Josie Lane, because there is such a significant setback, they're proposing to do a berm with shrub row. Another reason for that is we do have the drainage way, the floodplain, and also an Atmos easement that really restricts the planting and the ability to put in a more substantial wall. But with that in the distance setback, and then the homes backing to the road, staff feels that's adequate in terms of screening from Josie Lane. The City of Lewisville does intend to construct a trail along the South Creek, Indian Creek, in the future. That is on our trail master plan. There's no timeline on that yet, but it would tie into some open space areas that are being provided for the residential development on the south end of the site. And you can see the lot depths do range from 95 feet to 115 feet depth, fairly consistent with what's in the rest of the area. Staff is in support of this plan development zone change request as it meets the big move of thriving neighborhoods, and we're available if you have any questions. And the applicant, Patricia Fant with McAdams, is also available if you have any questions.
Thank you, Michelle. Commissioners, before I open the public hearing, do you have any questions for staff? No? Okay. At this time, I will open the public hearing, and I understand that Nichelle Sullivan would like to speak on this, so if you'd please come forward and sign in. State your name. We'd be happy to hear from you. Good evening.
Hi, good evening, y'all. Thank you for your time. I know that serving on the Planning and Zoning Board is largely a labor of love, and thank you for dedicating your time and energy to the city of Lewisville.
Could you speak up just a little bit? I'm having trouble hearing you.
I'll just pull this a little closer. So, even though it says I'm in opposition, I'm not against growth, I'm not against anything like that. My thing is that that strip of Josie Lane is already super busy as it is. If that light, Josie and Parker, when that light turns red in the morning, the line's back all the way back to almost the beginning of like that Lakewood Hills on the other side from there. It gets pretty far back. So my thing is mostly traffic, and I do know there's a lot of families in that area that would like, and maybe this is part of the growth plan, but would like a park there if there's any consideration for that. There's a lot of families there that would appreciate that. And it would be a great quality of life improvement. And also, like, fallow land doesn't mean it's not doing a service. There's such a benefit to green spaces. And I think I moved to the area during COVID, so I'm still exploring the area there, but I think it's worth preserving that green space, because I've lived in other places, and yes, we want development, yes, it's great, yes, we want these things, but it becomes so built up so fast that, yes, you live in a beautiful house with a beautiful yard, but there's nothing for your kids to do. There's not a park down the street for them to walk to. So I'm not against, development and building, but I just think the traffic is gonna be bad, and it might be better served if there's like, a park there. And also because Arbor Hills, which is just down the road, and Plano is already like, it's so overused. It would just be nice to have like another park nearby too. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Michelle, did I see on the map here that there is a possible park dedication on here?
Ma'am?
I was talking to Michelle. I'm sorry, your names are so similar.
They're so similar. Yeah, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yes, so as I was mentioning, there is the Indian Creek, and there is plan for a trail along Indian Creek that would hopefully go underneath the Josie Lane Bridge that would be ideal. Obviously, that has to be explored and engineered.
Right.
But the developer would be dedicating some land that's outside of that floodway and floodplain. The intent is to either dedicate that as a city park to meet the parkland dedication requirement, or to have it as a private open space. But either way, that would be an open space here on the southern end. In addition, the drainage way that goes along the west side of the development and the north side of the development would remain. There would be quite significant grading where the homes are going, because there's a lot of topography on that site if you've driven out there. But this drainage way would remain, and that would basically function as open space. We are looking to do a recreation and drainage easement across that whole area that's open. And the thought behind that is that depending on future budgets and trails plans, we could maybe do an extension of the trail along Indian Creek up to the middle school. But there's a lot of topography, so we're not sure if it would be feasible, but at least we'd have that easement as part of this project if we could do that in the future.
Okay, okay.
Another question.
Go ahead.
Michelle, I have a question for the city. Has the traffic issue been addressed, or has it been discussed? I mean, is it something that we're going to be, do we take that into consideration in today's discussion or in today's voting?
Yes, we always consider traffic as part of a zone change request. And with this one, it's single-family residential development. It's about 135 lots. We don't anticipate any traffic issues with Josie Lane. It is a 6-lane arterial, so it is a fast-moving street. Understand that there are some backups at the light. This neighborhood is providing stub outs for future connectivity that would go to the northeast from here, and hopefully eventually connect to Windhaven, which would provide these residents alternative ways to get in and out. In addition, we really did look at how these children would be getting to the elementary school, seeing as it's right there, but Josie Lane is quite a barrier in terms of crossing it. And so basically the idea is to put in the sidewalks that would lead them up to the light, and to make sure that that crossing is designed appropriately.
Michelle, where exactly is the middle school going in relation to this?
Yeah, let me get to a different image to show you that. Go back to that location map with the aerial. So the middle school would be going on the north side of this,
Okay.
north of that drainage way, really right across from the elementary school.
So Michelle, the school district has a buyer, already has a buyer for this property, who is the applicant that's wanting to make the.
Correct.
And their intention is, if they get all the approvals, they're going to move forward with this right away, or do you think it'll happen sooner rather than later? Or?
I'm not quite sure what their timing is. My understanding from talking with them is they anticipate on moving on this fairly quickly, and it's a one-phase development, but if Patricia has anything to add.
That's correct.
Okay.
Do we know who the builder is?
Life Residential.
Yes, we're the developer, but also have vertical capabilities, but also well connected to many of the national builders.
It's a little difficult to hear you from that distance. Thank you.
Adam Stetson, 2811 Timber Hill Drive in Grapevine. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here tonight, and for you guys taking the time as well. Yes, we are a developer and a builder, so we'll do both the land and the entitlements process, as well as we can vertically construct. However, we've been in this industry for over 20, 25 years, and so we've made a lot of great relationship with the nationally respected builders that are already in that area, who obviously have a lot of interest. You guys have done a great job with the community, and so we're still in that process right now, but the intent is 100% to move forward immediately with the property through the development, going vertical and creating a tax base sooner rather than later. We're not an investor that just sits on the property.
Okay. Anything else?
What's the condition of water and sewer to support this?
So there is, and Patricia, you may know more accurately than me, but there is water and sewer. The water, if I remember correctly, is on the west side of Josie Lane, so we will have to bore under to bring that over. And the sewer is coming up from the south side, where one of the additions of the Castle Hills project that we'd have to. There's a manhole down there that we'd connect into as well. So should not see any major impacts from the construction activity there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
anyone else that would like to speak on item number 5? For or against, before I close the public hearing? Patricia, do you have any thoughts?
We have.
Okay. Do I have your, a card for you?
No, ma'am.
Okay, if you will just please state your name and give your address.
Hector Garza, 1420 Lake Falls Terrace, Lewisville, which is actually right on that map to the left of Josie. And so speaking for someone who actually is there every day, lives in that exact area, it is so congested. And the topography, as was mentioned earlier, it's a hill going up. So right now we see a hill of land and trees, which is nice. But now we're going to see a hill of rooftops from my own backyard or from the whole neighborhood. I mean, just earlier this week, right on the other side of Josie, by the intersection of Josie and 121, they're already building 1,000-unit apartments. This place is already so congested. And there's a Target on the other side of Windhaven, just like a 1/10 of a mile, but it takes 10 minutes to get there. And as mentioned earlier, the traffic going to Parker, if you hit a red light, you'll be there half a mile down, waiting for at least 10 minutes. It's just, I don't think the area is capable of handling anymore. It's full, it seems like. It's what it feels like, actually being there as a resident every day, leaving in the morning, coming at night, and it seems like it's full in that area.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garza. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item? Okay, at this time I will go ahead and close the public hearing. Commissioners, any discussion? Questions, concerns?
I'd kind of like to hear how this falls into plan with the recommendation, how it falls into the 2025 vision, if staff could illuminate that.
Yes, excuse me, it's a little closer than I thought it was. This falls under the big move of thriving neighborhoods because we are creating new residential ownership opportunities within the city limits. We find that it's compatible with the type of housing that we have out there. It'll be compatible with the school district. The area to the east is actually already zoned for multifamily development, but we do have stub outs so that we can help direct traffic over to Windhaven and kind of help to divide that up between those streets depending on where folks are going.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle, what else can we do or what else can the city do with regards to these two residents' complaints regarding the traffic? I mean, is there...
When it comes to traffic congestion, we can look at the lights and we can work with TxDOT on the signals and the signal timing to see if something can be done to alleviate the congestion through the timing of the lights, because there are quite a few different lights as you move south from 121. And so sometimes that can help provide some relief to congestion concerns.
I have closed the public hearing, but if you have some information you'd like to offer us, I'll go ahead and open it again and let you speak.
I'm the applicant. I just wanted to answer some of the questions that have been
thank you.
Yes, addressed. My name is Patricia Fant. The first thing that I wanted to mention was that a traffic impact analysis will have to be done and completed before civil construction plans are approved, and that will tell us exactly how to mitigate and what our proportionate share of the traffic is, and if there is a light that is needed, and if there is, what our monetary, how much money we would need to invest in that to get that approved. And then the second thing is we are still working with the parks on the park dedication. We have gone back and forth, but we fully plan for there to be a playground, like a nature playground in this area, as well as trails and connections and all of that. Like Michelle said, there is a recreation easement that goes all the way up in order to help connect both schools. So that was kind of the answer to that, the parks question as well. So.
Okay.
And that park space would be public and open, or would that be for the community and what's
Public.
being built? Public?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Patricia.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and close the public hearing now again, since we're finished. If there are no other questions for staff or discussion, may I have a motion on this item, please?
Motion to recommend approval of the zone change as presented.
Motion is by Aram.
Second.
Second is by Rick. Vote now. Motion passes 5-0.
Commissioners, this item will be considered by the City Council for a second public hearing and a final decision on Monday, March the 4th, 2024 at 7 o'clock p.m.
Thank you, Richard. Okay, we have another public hearing this evening. This one is consideration of a recommendation for an ordinance amending Chapter 7.2, allowed uses by District of Volume 2 of the Lewisville City Code, known as the Unified Development Code, by adding Section 7.2.1.5, interim prohibition on short-term rental of dwelling units.
Good evening, Commissioners. I know the discussion of short-term dwelling units is not one that we've talked a lot about with this body. It is something that the City Council has been considering quite a lot in recent months. So on January 8th, the City Council actually passed an ordinance that amended portions of the Code of Ordinance, not the Unified Development Code, but the Code of Ordinances, that established a permitting process to operate or rent a short-term rental within city limits. That does not go into effect until July because we need some time to get the operator up and running on that and to make sure we have all the systems in place for that to function effectively. But it also does provide some circumstances for revoking that permit. It does provide an opportunity for a limited parking zone process that residents can apply for if parking becomes an issue on any street, regardless of whether it's related to a short-term rental. That's kind of a separate standalone position, but it could be used if that is an issue. And so that was passed by City Council on the 8th, and they also asked city staff to look at a short-term prohibition on new short-term rentals until such time as that's up and operating and there's adequate time to review that it's operating effectively and efficiently. So for up to 1 year, the prohibition would be. And so that's what's before you tonight is a code amendment to amend the Unified Development Code to establish a definition. Basically, it's adding a section that does an interim prohibition on short-term rentals of dwelling units. It defines them within that section, and it basically prohibits any new short-term rentals from opening that weren't already in process as of January 8th, 2024. So all existing short-term rentals will be able to continue operating as long as they were already established. We did use a third party to send mailed notification letters about this hearing to all the short-term rental operators within the city. Since we don't have a good list of them, we used a third party to kind of scrub the various booking websites. So numerous hotels did get notified as well. This does not impact hotels in any way. It's limited to short-term rentals that are operating in folks' homes. So I just wanted to make that clear. We did get several calls about this ordinances, and a few of them were from hotels. I think we got a total of 12 inquiries on this public hearing.
Okay.
But staff's recommendation is that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve the ordinance as presented, and we're here to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff before I open the public hearing?
So just so I fully understand, the prohibition would be on new moving forward, anyone wanting to Airbnb, VRBO, whatever, but homeowners that already have this in place would be able to continue to operate their
Yes.
short-term rentals.
They would continue to operate as a legal nonconformity. and following all of our standards for legal nonconformities, which means you can keep operating the way that you have been. So they wouldn't be allowed to, you know, build a new unit or something like that.
Okay.
Will we see a developing ordinance or a sample or draft as it's developed?
So this ordinance that is the temporary prohibition, I included that draft ordinance in the packet. I also included just a summary of the regulations that council passed on January the 8th that are in the Code of Ordinances. The Code of Ordinance does not come before this body, it just goes straight to council, and that established the permitting process for short-term rentals. However, we likely will bring something back before this body when the temporary prohibition is over, and we might want to add it as a use and kind of clarify that within the Unified Development Code.
Okay. Does this include anyone that is wanting to add like the cottages that the city has previously approved in their backyards, or this does not include that?
So you can add a backyard cottage to your house. You just cannot add it and make it a short-term rental. So you could do a long-term rental with it, or you could move into it or have a family member move into it. It wouldn't impact that at all.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I will open the public hearing for this item. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come forward, state your name and address, and we'd be happy to hear from you. I do have paperwork on two people. Ainsley Stelling.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Ainsley Stelling. I live at 1001 Forest Park Drive. I also represent a group of residents through the Texas Neighborhood Coalition, Lewisville. We are a group of residents, over 100 in number, that suffer from living next to short-term rentals. In August of last year, AirDNA had 146 active listings. In October, it was 168. Last month, just last week, it was 189. That's a 30% increase in 6 months. Grapevine just passed their ordinance that they're not going to allow them. Plano is looking to follow the Arlington model that is not going to allow them but accept in certain areas. Without a cap on this now, we're going to skyrocket. The ordinance that council put together, they put it together at record pace, and I commend the work that the city has done. But we need time to see how it works and be able to make corrections and tweaks without an STR explosion population to have to deal with as well. The majority of Lewisville has said that we don't want short-term rentals, and that was expressed in the survey from October. Hotels and neighborhoods go against the very nature and essence of a neighborhood and against the Vision 2025 plan for thriving neighborhoods and maintaining long-term residents. My neighborhood is at 15% short-term rentals. 15%. We are a 20-house neighborhood, 1 road in and 2 cul-de-sacs. 15%. I have seen cars come in and out of my neighborhood because I'm on the corner at all times of night. 19 times I've recorded it. I don't feel safe in my house anymore. I've had to put up cameras all around the perimeter that record 24/7. I am not the only one who feels this way, and I am not the only one who has made these precautions. So we ask of you to please, please support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Alcorn.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Alcorn. Good evening.
Thank you for your invitation. As a short-term rental property owner and having made a significant investment 8 months ago, when I got the letter last week, I experienced some notable heart palpitations, but once I understood the situation and spoke with a very nice lady at the city who explained that the city's intent was not to shut down short-term, but to regulate and inspect, I have no problem with that at all. I think if you look, well, my observation at looking at long-term rentals and short-term rentals, I've got a short-term in another community. Short-term rentals, I think, make significant investments. The property is inspected regularly. And my observation with some long-term rentals is the landlords are absent. We don't see them for a while, or a very long while. The properties degenerate because the tenants are there for a year or 2 years, and you have this quagmire at the end of the street, whereas the short-term guys live and die by the quality of their property. So I just wanted to thank the city for its consideration of short-term owners and their investments. I appreciate this lady's comments. I can understand. I think I could make the argument that it goes both ways. So I just wanted to commend the city on its tolerance on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Shawnee. I own a STR in the area, but I would like to tell you a story first, if you don't mind, very quickly. We were called overseas about 5 years ago, and we had to sell everything to take care of an ailing parent. And for over a year, and when we came back, we knew that we wanted to be in the city, and we knew we wanted to be in the certain ISD. And an STR was a lifesaver for our family during our transitions. And we cater our STRs mainly for local families and making sure that they are supported during transition times or floods or fire situations, which we're having a lot more in the area and surrounding areas as well. And I am actually very grateful for the ordinances and regulations. That way that the people who are taking good care of their properties are actually, like this gentleman just said, I'm so sorry, I forgot your name, sir. But when it's done right, it actually serves a service to the city. I do see a problem maybe in surrounding areas during the lake sides or something like that, that there's a high traffic. But inside cities and communities, a lot of times it serves more of a benefit to the neighbors as well. We take good care of our properties. It's constantly being updated. It's constantly being cared for. Again, my name is important. My name is on all of my properties to make sure that the families are well taken care of. On a few occasions, I do less than a month, but it's very rare because maybe a grandparent wants to come in and visit for Christmas or Thanksgiving, something like that where they can see their grandchildren, or maybe even an ailing parent that's in the hospital. So these do serve a purpose if it's done right. If an owner takes the time to screen their prospects and their guests that are coming in, it's actually more of a blessing than a curse. I do also let my neighbors know who's coming a lot of the time so that my neighbors also understand we're going to be having a family or we're going to be having a couple, something like that. So whenever there's a lot of good communication, your neighbors should be okay. And so I would like to say thank you for this opportunity, and maybe a regulation where there can be more understanding on the process and not so much a limit, but more of maybe 3 or 4 days is not acceptable. 1 day offers are not acceptable. Maybe a 1 week to 2 week minimum stays in the communities where it's highly residential. That may be more of a happy compromise for everyone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yes, please come forward.
My name is Song Wu. I have, in previous sections, I have heard of the debate between the short-term rental for pro and cons. But my point is that I support whatever the audience, the city come out. But my point is the audience should be equally applied to every properties, not just short-term rental properties not stand out, because you cannot discriminate certain property against another. That's unconstitutional. So if people talk about strangers, the short-term rental bring to the community, I would say that short-term rental guests need to be treated the same way as the regular guests over your sleepover parties guests. That's also the strangers, right? So if you have put a limitation, you have to treat both the same. The guests are guests, right? So that's one point I want to make. The second point is that by definition, the short-term guests do not go to our public schools, but the host of short-term rental does pay the tax for the public schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, please come forward.
All right, my name is Xin Zhang. My husband and I, we own a short-term rental. I'm here only to talk about the temporary intermediate ban on short-term rental. Because I think that's not, I don't know what's the proposed timeline. I mean, by what time it will be banned or what time it will be stopped the banning. But does not support equal right? There's some people want to open up a short-term rental. They cannot do that. Not everyone can wait, put their property on hold for another year, waiting for, the zoning commission changing the rule for them to open up a short-term rental. The point is that the short-term rental, we have been owners and we have been comply with all the city rules, and our rental don't have any. Never called 911, I never had any problems. So our guests, church groups, people come here to do work in the city. Usually they got, because this does offer them kitchens, more people can stay in a family environment. And most of them is family visiting local families. So they have relatives already nearby, they come here to visit them. So we have been very blessed with our guests, and they're very wonderful people, and we have the opportunity to get to know more people this way. They are we are always thought, they are very, decent human beings, just to come here, visit family, and come here to work, and come here to attend church. So in a sense, if the short-term rental run properly, we can, we're not trying, the neighbors won't see much of the trouble, much of the problem. So we always give guidance on where you can park, how many cars you can park, right? This is the limited amount of spot. So please don't park on our neighbors' parking spot. So now city has planned to regulate short-term rental, so we welcome that. We have the rules set in place. So that's a good, I think that's one step moving forward, so that all the owners can become responsible owners, following those rules. So with all of that, why there's a need to do an intermediate ban for it, right? And there are people, or I think one of the lady just spoken, there's more short-term rental open up, you double it, triple it. My point is that can't happen because short-term rental, they do want to be profit as well. And there's a social cost with it. You have to have the Wi-Fi, you have the utility, you have to have everything paid for, regardless people come here to stay or not, right? Once the supply is over demand, you will see people not making money. Some of the short-term not making money. So there will be, so there's some of them will be closed if it's not run properly. If you have an intermediate ban or even a long-term ban, I would say some people will want to, when they're thinking of not, close the short-term rental when they're not doing well, they may hesitate to do so just because once I close, I cannot open it anymore, right? Or I have to wait another year to open it. So that's my point. If city going to regulate starting in July, why can't we just wait till July, right? That everyone has the same opportunity to do the same business. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wanting to come forward and speak on this item? Okay, at this time, I will close the public hearing for item number 6. Commissioners, discussion, questions?
I'm curious about enforcement, and as we evaluate this, what might be options that could be taken to help address some of the concerns that have caused the issue to come up in terms of the either public safety or fire or nuisance calls. I think that's worth understanding in this process as we move forward.
Okay. And I do believe the city does have some recommendations. They've had several public hearings, I believe, on it, citizens meetings. So you should be able to find, if not asking staff directly.
Will do. Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, may I have a motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the ordinance as presented.
Motion is by Francis. Second is by Jack. Vote now. Motion passes 5-0.
Commissioners, this item will be considered by the City Council, who will hold a second public hearing and will be making a final decision on Monday, February the 19th, 2024 at 7:00 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Hopefully you all understand that there will be another opportunity for you to be heard at that meeting for the City Council. Okay, item number 7, public hearing. This is in consideration of a recommendation for an ordinance amending Article 2, definitions, and Article 7, uses, parking requirements, supplemental use regulations, and certain distance requirements of Volume 2 of the Lewisville City Code, known as the Unified Development Code, by adding smoking establishment as a defined use and specifying the requirement for a special use permit in certain zoning districts.
Good evening, Commissioners. So thank you. This is our second code amendment of the evening. A use that's come to our attention recently is smoking establishments. We've had a few establishments looking to open, including cigar bars, hookah lounges, those types of things. Oftentimes there's food served, and in the past they'd been treated and they'd fallen under the category of restaurant. However, there's a lot of them that really, truly don't want to serve food. That's not what they're there for. They're not a restaurant operation. They have a wide range of operating parameters. Some open more in the evening hours and have music and entertainment. Others are more of a lounge during the daytime hours. Some are more of a restaurant type feel to them. So there's quite a range. So we wanted to define this use and add it to our use charts. And to require a special use permit for a smoking establishment in the Old Town Mixed Use 2, Mixed Use, General Business 2, and Light Industrial zoning districts. This roughly tracks, but doesn't 100% track with where a bar would be allowed. We find that a bar is a comparable use because it's a similar place where people gather to enjoy on-premise an age-controlled substance. So bars require a special use permit in the Old Town Mixed Use 2, Old Town Center, General Business 2, Light Industrial, and Heavy Industrial zoning districts. So those do roughly track. Those districts are also where a number of the existing facilities are, and we think that that really reflects the type of use that they are. One of the other reasons that we want to regulate these separately than a restaurant or another type of facility is when we compare the average calls per service between restaurants that are nearby the existing establishments that would fall under the definition of smoking establishments if this was approved, you do see that they have a higher amount of calls for police and in-city services. So the establishments that would fall under this definition average 1.5 calls per service per month, whereas a restaurants that we looked at average about half a call per month. And I will say there were some outliers in there that kind of skewed the numbers a little bit. If you eliminate the outliers on either side, the smoking establishments had somewhere between 14 to 17 calls for service per year. The restaurants, excluding the outliers, had maybe 1 or 2 calls per service per year, which I think gives you a little bit better understanding if you look at the modes and the kind of what's the statistical term? I'm not very good with statistics, I'm sorry. But if you look at the mode, you see that difference a little bit more clearly. And then also there were some fairly clear outliers. So I'll try to clarify that data as we move forward. But they do have a higher level of calls for service, and it is on-site consumption of an age-controlled substance. So we wanted to define that and then require an SUP for it. This would make all of the existing businesses that would meet this definition legal non-conforming. That means they'd be able to continue to operate as they are now. However, if they wanted to expand, say, into an adjacent lease space, then they would have to come before this body and the city council to obtain that special use permit, assuming they're in one of those districts that allows it with the special use permit. So they did all receive notices, all the ones that we could find. We did notify with the letters and let them know that this was going to be on the hearing tonight. We did receive some inquiries about it. We received about 3 inquiries at our office, and I think the fire marshal's office also received some inquiries. Staff is here if you have any questions.
I'm not clear on what these calls for service are for. Is that for underage smokers on the premises, or?
There are, they range in the calls for service. There's been for disorderly conduct, theft, general disturbance, assault, aggravated assault, firearms complaints, suspicious activity, overdoses, unconscious persons, and intoxicated persons.
And this correlates to smoking on the premises?
We have found these calls with the people that are smoking on the premises.
Wow.
A lot of these facilities also do serve alcohol.
Well, yeah, I figured as much there, but that blows me away. Did not realize that. Now, this is certainly not going to make our restaurants that we've finally gotten rid of smoking, non-smoking sections back to that area, are we?
Correct, yes. So a smoking establishment would be any place where smoking is permitted indoors. There's some other definitions with the fire code. A certain percentage of the sales has to be tobacco related. Restaurants that have an outdoor smoking area would still be allowed to have that outdoor smoking area, but not an indoor one.
Okay. Okay. Any discussion, questions for staff? Okay, at this time I will open the public hearing on this item. Anybody wishing to speak on this item, please come forward, state your name, and we'll be happy to hear from you. Having no one come forward, I will now close the public hearing on this item. Commissioners, is there any discussion? Deviation? No? Okay, if not, may I have a motion, please?
Motion to recommend approval of the ordinance as presented.
Motion is by Aram.
Second.
Second is by Francis. Vote now. Motion passes 5-0.
Commissioners, this item, the City Council will hold a second public hearing and make a final decision on Monday, March the 4th, 2024 at 7 o'clock p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any announcements this evening? Okay, then the next item is adjournment. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion's by Rick, second by Jack. Vote now. Motion passes. We are adjourned.